And welcome back to another daily cribbage. We are back facing the AI. Last time we won against the crazy ninja. Let's go to insane monkey. What's this about? We get a nice low card, so hopefully, yes, we get the dealer. And our hand now is ace 4, 6, 6, 10, queen, or jack queen. So as always in these Sunday episodes, we're going to explain everything that we're thinking, but this starting hand, there's not much to really say. We've got ace 4, 10, 10, which makes 4 points, and we can throw away pair of sixes into the crib. One thing to note about pairs in the crib is that they always score 2 points, but when they improve to a lot of points, but so that means that there's a sort of high variance with the crib. So just the thing to look out for when this doesn't combo with the crib's often only going to be worth 2 points. We hit a king on top, which improves our hand to 9 points, which is nice. And we are led, our opponent leads a 7. So against us, we can either play a 10, an ace, or a 4. So out of all the 10s, our opponent has more jacks than queens, so a queen is slightly safer. And the reason why our opponent has more jacks is that your opponent's going to keep more jacks over queens because jacks are worth just a little bit more. So the jack is more likely to be paired. We could play an ace, but the thing that we would fear is our opponent has another 7, because you often lead cards that are paired in your hand in order to trap. Although with 7, that doesn't have to be the case so much. We could also play 4, and if our opponent pairs our 4, then they get 15 and a pair. So I think the nicest thing to do is to play our queen. And the point is if our opponent plays a 10, then we can also play a 4. So our opponent does have another 7. And so what does this mean? We're mostly playing against hands that have got 12 points. So I'm thinking hands like 7, 7, 8, 9, 6, 7, 7, 8, 7, 7, 8, and what else? Maybe another 7 or an 8. Those are the standard 12-point hands that contain double 7. There could be other fringe hands as well, like 777 ace, or I don't know, 777 double 4, which is okay. That's only 8 points. Similarly for lower runs as well, they could be worth 8 points. So 7765. Well, actually, that's worth 10 points. But none of those really interact with the 4. So the only thing that really changes is if our opponent has like 7762, in which case it doesn't really matter. We're playing out the ace and the 4 and getting 31 anyway. Oh, that's the point. Actually, our opponent has some 6s in hand, so playing the ace is a little bit dangerous. So we'll go 4 here. We sometimes get the go, and we do get that against strong hands, but our opponent rarely has something that's going to combo to 15 there, so the jack is fairly safe. They had 7774 for 6 points, and our crib ended up being really just a pair of 6s and the right jack. So 13 versus 7, we've got a little run, 9, 10 jack. We've got a 15, 4, 4, 7, and a pair of 4s. So we have a question about what do we value more, 4, 4, 7 or 9, 10 jack. Of course, 4, 4, 7 doesn't really improve in many ways. The only ways in which it improves is if we get another 4 or a 7. The 9, 10 jack, that improves on more cards, because another 9, 10 or jack, well, there's 9 of those left in the deck, so we can hit a lot more double runs. But if we do keep the 9, 10, jack, it's a case of what do we want to get rid of. It would be, I guess, 4, 7. And if we keep the 4, 4, 7, we're getting rid of 9, jack. So what's better? I think I like getting rid of 9, jack here, keeping the 4, 4, 7. It is an immediate extra point. The crib's not too bad because we hold one of the 10s, so we block some of the runs. Getting rid of the jack's a little bit annoying. I think it's fairly close though. Yeah, I'm just going to go 9 jack here. And what do we get? We get a queen. Queen on top. A little bit scary. We'll lead one of our 4s. 4, 6. Our opponent doesn't fear us playing a 5. One thing we can do here is to play our 4. And so the idea is that if our opponent plays a 5, that will take us to 19. And then we can play our 7, taking us to 26. So we get a 4-card run, and our opponent would only have a 3-card run. Unfortunately, that's a bit dangerous though, because if our opponent has a 3, then they can keep going with the run afterwards. So I'm a bit more in favor of playing the 10. Opponent reveals double 6. We have to play the 4 here. And we're left to wonder if our opponent has a double run. A 3. So their last card's probably a 9 or another 3. That's my guess. And that shouldn't really interact. They had a king, so the hand was worse than we thought. Only 2 points. Oh, 4 points, sorry, for 6, 6, 3. It's 15. The analysis is the computer likes throwing away 4, 7 because on average the crib is a bit safer and the hand is actually worth more because, oh yes, and the reason why the hand's worth more is because there's still ways to hit 15s with the 4. So if we get an ace on top, those can be very good. Okay. Lesson learned there. Let's move on. Alright, so our hand contains 6, 6, 9 and a pair of 8s. Now, the thing that's quite nice is that if we throw away the pair of 8s, we would be guaranteed 2 points in the crib. However, if we throw away 8 king and keep 6, 6, 8, 9, if we do get a 7 on top, that's going to be 16 points, which is quite significant. If we really wanted to gamble on the 7, we could keep 6, 6, 8, 8, and then that 7 would take us from 4 points up to 20 points. So a 16-point cut is something we could ask for, but we don't really need that right now. We're in a slightly precarious situation, but our opponent's a bit behind. And by precarious, I mean it's early on in the game and we have just made the first milestone, which means that we're probably going to fall behind in due course until we get a strong hand. This could be one of those strong hands, but no. Alright, so either we throw away 8, 8 for the points, which is fairly consistent, or we throw away 8 king. Now the thing about 8 king is that it's a very safe discard into the crib, and we don't really want to do that as the dealer. We want to score lots of points, and the thing that I've been saying all this time is if a 7 comes up on top, then we are able to get a lot of points if we keep the 6, 6, 8, 9 combos in hand. But a 7 coming on top is still really good for us if we throw away 8, 8. It still gets us 4 points. And so I like to say in these situations that the 7 is already good for us. So we don't need to worry about maximizing our value from it. The only thing that we're really getting more value from is the 10s. So if we keep 8, 9 in hand, then we get some value from 10s when they come up. But I don't think we need to worry about that too much. Let's keep these points. We get a 5, which is typically good for us. We don't see many 10s, so it's not as good as normal. Opponent leads a 4. Don't really like playing a 6 here because if our opponent has a 5, they get 5 points immediately. I would rather pay off our opponent's hands that have 9s and 2s in them. And why is that? It's because the hands that are revolving around... So I could have played the king there, but the hands that would score more points off us there, ones that have ace 4 and 10s, and various combos based on ace 4 10, those ones would already be getting extra points off the 5, so they're doing quite well, whereas a hand that's based on 2 4 9 is not doing so well. Here we have a question of whether to pair the 6, and we can see in front of us right now a lot of the 6s, so I think it's on balance fine to go for this 6. If we do get tripled here, it's kind of painful. But if we don't, then we get to triple. So that's the payoff. Okay, so 4, 6, 8 jack for our opponents. They get the 8 points. They have the right jack. So 8 points in hand for us and a few points in the crib. So the second best discard according to the computer is 8 king, because what else? And 8 kings in the crib are, on average worth quite a lot less, but it does improve our hand score a bit because those 7s are pretty good. Let's continue. Alright, impressive again, apparently. Alright. Again, we've got some more 6s and 9s. We don't have a flush in hand, and we can either get rid of, well, how else can we extend this combo? So 6, 6, 9, if we add a 10 into it, then we're going to get some points out of 8s and jacks that come out. If we add an ace into it, then we're getting points out of 5s and what else? 2s and 8s. We get quite a lot of points out of the 8s if we keep the ace, whereas we only get 3 points if we get... So if we keep ace, 6, 6, 9, 10, then if we hit an ace, if we hit an 8, then we're getting 4 extra points. Whereas if we keep 6, 6, 9, 10, then the 8 is only giving us 3 extra points. So, however, if we keep 6, 6, 9, 10 and the jack comes, then we get 3 extra points from the jack. There are 4 8s, so that's an extra 4 points one way, and there's 4 jacks, so yeah. So I think it's better to throw away ace queen there, because we get points out of jacks and 8s. I think those are the only differences. The other point is that if we throw away 10 queen, then it has a chance to make some runs in the crib. So we want to avoid that. So that would make the crib score a little... So ace queen is going to be a little bit safer. I don't want to say that immediately because our opponent can throw away 4s, whereas 4s don't make any points on the 10. So I think they're somewhat similar. Maybe ace queen scores a bit more in the crib, but it should be fairly negligible. 2 comes up on the top, and we will bleed a 6. Why not? Opponent goes 3. We can make a couple of points with our 6, taking us to 44. 3-2 from our opponent with a 2 on top. Very scary. We are quite scared of our opponent having maybe a 4, because that would be a double run. So that would lead us towards playing the 9 here, because if our opponent has a 5 and a 10, then they've got 8 points instead of 8 points for a double run. If they have a 4 plus whatever last card they have, say a 10 would give them 12 points. So let's give some points to the 5 if they have it. They don't have a 5, they have a very scary 3. if their last card is a 10, they've got 12 points, and if it's something else, then if it was a 4 or an ace, then they'd have 16 points, which would be a bit of a disaster. Although we've accounted for one of the aces in the crib. So if we have a look at the difference between ace queen and 10 queen, we see that, yes, the 10 queen scores a little bit more in the crib. And so the ace queen's a little bit safer, and the hands are pretty much identical. Lovely. So 50 plays 35, and this is a classic. So double 5, double 10. This is going to score you 10 or 12 points based on whether or not your 10s are paired. 2-8 is not unreasonable for the crib. If we needed to keep lots of different values for the play, then we could throw 5 queen or 5 king away. But we're just interested in points, so let's do that. Opponent leads an ace. Ace is a sort of a nothing card, but it does allow us to go to 11, and 11 can be quite a problematic number to be on. Opponent goes to 16, and if we pair it, then we leave it on 21, so our opponent's likely to get 2 points. But if we don't pair it, then we're left with 2 5s in hand, and if our opponent plays a low card and we're forced to go, our opponent is likely to have a diamond 10 left in their hand. So at this point, our opponent's revealed 2 diamonds, so they're faking the flush nicely. And they've also got a 5 of diamonds in hand, and there are a lot of diamond picture cards, i.e. the 10, jack, and queen. So I think but also if they don't have a flush, then what kinds of hands does our opponent have? Probably something with 9s, and potentially a 4 and a 10, ace 4, 5, 10, ace 4, 5, 6. That kind of thing is on the cards. So let's just pair the 10 if our opponent has pair the 5 if our opponent has a 10, so be it. It's all fine. Double ace, 5, queen for our opponent. 6 points. And a few points in the crib. All right. So, important that you always keep an eye out for flushes. But in this case, the double run is plenty good enough. And quick think back to our discard last time. According to this particular computer, 10 queen is going to score about 3 points in the crib, which is nothing to be worried about on average. Ace takes our hand from being worth 10 points up to 14 points, which is really nice. This is going to get us to 81 for sure. And how should we get there? Well, we can undouble our 6s to begin with. This keeps the most number of cards. And I like playing a 6 here first because, well, having said that, let's have a think. If we play a 6 and our opponent goes 9 for 15, then we're a little bit stuck, because what would we do after that? If we play a 6, we leave it on 21, and our opponent might have hands like 9, 10, 9s and 10s with double runs going through them. If we play a 7, then the worst thing that can happen to us is our opponent would pair our 7, and we're forced to either play a 6, and our opponent could go into runs, or we'd have to play an 8, and again our opponent could go into runs. The only saving grace there is that we have a lot of 6s in hand, so maybe the run can't go on too long. So that sort of leaves us, we could play the 8, and I kind of like that because, okay, the worst thing that could happen there is that our opponent plays either goes 7, but if our opponent goes 7, then we could pair the 7, and it's not too much of a disaster. It's only a disaster if our opponent triples our 7 after that. Or our opponent could pair our 8, and we could go 6 for 20 to go to 20. Sorry, to go to 22. And if our opponent has a 7, then so be it. But we're not. I don't think we're losing as many points if we lead the 8. Okay, so I think I'm going to lead the 8 here. And our opponent goes 9. It's very scary to play the 6 because it sort of means that we don't get any points out of this. So if we play the 6 and our opponent goes 7, then we've lost 4 points and have nothing in return. Let's just take some points and claim our compensation before the accident happens. Okay, so on the play we managed to reach 71, which is really great. We're sort of a whole street ahead of our opponents, and with nothing in the crib, they are quite stuck behind us. We are 31 points ahead. We are very lucky, and we are thinking about the skunk. So let's keep the 5 and 10s together in our hand. And what's the best card to keep with the 5s and 10s? It's the 4, because it's most closely connected to our hand. The other option would be to go 2-4 in the crib, because 2-4 is closer together and scores more points than the 2-8. But I think that those are quite similar in terms of averages, and the 4 improves our hand more significantly than the 8 in our hand. The 5 on top is really lucky for us, so let's play the 10. If we play the jack there, our opponent could pair the jack more commonly. Maybe we're not too worried about this, but the point was that if our opponent goes 4 like this, we can pair the 4. Opponent shows they've got another ace, so maybe this is a tendency that we're picking up on from our opponent. Maybe whenever they have a pair of aces, they lead the pair of aces. If our opponent has triple ace, so I'm thinking about what happens after we play our 10, then our opponent's hand would be triple ace 4, and with a 5 on top, that would only be worth 6 points. That's not as good as if our opponent has a 10 in hand, and so we're going to try and extract points from our opponent's hands that have 10s left in them by playing our 10 and leaving ourselves with the 5, so we can get this 15. The opponent does have quite a few points in hand, but we managed to take a few points off them on the play. So we had a fairly nice crib. Of course, the 5 on top benefits us a lot more. So just to illustrate, have a look at how much this 5 on top has improved our opponent's overall score. It's only given them 2 extra points, but for us, it's given us 4 extra points in hand from the 15s, 2 extra points from the pair, and in the crib we've also got 4 extra points as well because of 2-8 and the queen. So 5s are always better for the dealer. That is what I say. Okay, so we are nearing the end of the game. We need 16 points to go out, and we look down at double ace 4, double 8, 10. So the immediate things that we can think of are to keep the 2 pairs. If we're really worried, we could go keep double ace, double 8, or we can keep the 6 points by throwing away double 8. So the thing to remember about double 8, and with a lot of with all the pairs, if you discard a pair of numbers to your opponent's crib, then effectively you've only discarded, especially if the numbers are quite high, you've only really discarded one kind of number that can be used to make 15s. So in this case, if our opponent wants to make 15s with the 8 we've discarded, they have to make 7 using the remaining 3 cards, i.e. their 2 discards and the card that comes up from the cut. There are a few ways to make 7, but because they only have 3 cards to do it, it means that... Oh, and because we've got a paired 8, that means you can't use the other 8 that we're discarding to form that 15. And so this gives a higher standard deviation, a higher variance to the score of the crib. It does give them 2 points, but overall there are fewer combos that are made with double 8 compared to, say, 4, 10. So we'll just go double 8 here. We get a 3, which is nice because that gives us another 15. We could do what our opponent does and lead the ace, but I don't really like doing that for the simple reason that we can keep double ace in our hand and leave it for later, and we can extract more points from double ace by trying to play them out as a pair that might also get us to 31. So I'm going to start off with a 4. If our opponent plays a 10, we should cash in our points. Opponent goes jack, so we have to play our ace. If our opponent has 5, so be it. Let's see what they've got. They've got a king of diamonds, so they don't have a flush anymore. They've shown us 4 points because of 3 points for the run and the correct jack. They could have a 10 here, but instead, no, they have a 7. So 4 points for our opponent. Doesn't take them very far. They need a lot of points to catch up to us, or not become skunked. Okay. Ace 2, double 10, double jack. We're 116. Our opponent's at 73. We're only thinking now about trying to keep the skunk alive. Note that we have 4 points in hand, and we're guaranteed 1 point on the play, so we have already made it. Our opponent needs over 40 points, which is very unlikely, perhaps even impossible. If they have a 29-point hand, can they catch us? Probably not. So in order to keep some more playability, let's discard the pair of jacks. I'm not too concerned about winning on the play, so we'll just keep the 10s instead. Okay, 8. 8 with an ace on top. If we play our 2, opponent could have a 5, and if we play our ace, our opponent could have a 6. I'm more worried about our opponent having 6s and aces here because there's an ace on top, so they could have 12 points that way, but 12 points only takes them to 85, so giving away 2 extra points here doesn't mean too much. Opponent could have double runs through the 8, and so if we play our 10, then they could play a 9. With ace and 8 showing from our opponent, I don't think I'm too worried about 5s, so I'm going to play a 2. And now let's get rid of one of our 10s. Leave us with an ace and a 10. Our opponent doesn't have any 2s of their own, so whatever they have left. Oh, was that a flush? Might have been a flush. No, it's 5 of hearts, so opponent didn't really have anything there. Okay, so we come out on top against the Insane Monkey, and just as a summary, we got quite a lot of points on the play. Opponent played a lot of aces out first, so maybe they didn't quite get enough value out of their pairs of aces. We scored very well in hand as well, so that contributes a lot. Our opponent wasn't able to capitalize on our high-scoring hands on the play, and we also got a bit of luck in the crib as well. So complete domination, and I hope you like that. I hope that all makes sense, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye for now.